You're watching News Channel 4 at 10, the news leader.
Another execution goes terribly wrong. Eyewitnesses say the inmate gasped for air during the 2 hours it took for him to die.
It was tough for everybody in that room. And at a certain point, you wondered if he was ever going to die.
But the victim's family members were also in the room, and they tell a different story.
I don't believe he was gasping for air. I don't believe he was suffering. Sounded to me as though he was snoring.
And that is where we begin tonight at 10, with controversy over what happened tonight inside an execution chamber in Arizona.
Because it is eerily similar to what happened in Oklahoma during our state's last execution. That was back in April, when 43 minutes into the execution of Clayton Lockett, he was still alive. Oklahoma prison officials called it off and refused to let eyewitnesses see any more. His execution is still under investigation. Tonight in Arizona, convicted killer Joseph Wood was expected to die within 10 minutes. Instead, it took 2 hours, and witnesses say he gasped for air more than 600 times. News Channel 4's Latasha Gibbons is following the breaking story, and you said the press conference held right after the execution was stunning.
Well, Linda, absolutely chilling. First, we heard from eyewitnesses from the media. Then the victim's family members spoke. Each side had a very different take on what happened during the death of the inmate who was convicted of murdering 2 people.
To watch a man lay there for an hour and 40 minutes gulping air, I can liken it to if you catch a fish and throw it on the shore, the way the fish opens and closes its mouth.
In the 2 hours after lethal injection was administered, some eyewitnesses say they counted the inmate gasping for air more than 640 times.
The 2 drugs worked. He eventually died, but I can't imagine this is what the criminal justice system had hoped for when they came up with this new drug protocol.
Reporters in the room questioned whether it was cruel and unusual punishment.
It's hard to say what he felt, or I just know it took a long, it was not efficient.
The victim's family members witnessed the execution as well. They have no sympathy for the convicted killer.
You guys are blowing this all out of proportion about these drugs. You know, this man, conducted a horrifying murder. And you guys are going, oh, let's worry about the drug and how he affect.
What's excruciating is seeing your dad lying there in a pool of blood, seeing your sister lying there in a pool of blood. That's excruciating. This man deserved it. And I shouldn't really call him a man. He deserved everything he had coming to him. This was nothing.
Why didn't we give him a bullet? Why didn't we give him some Drano? Why didn't we give him something else? Everybody's worried about the drug.
Harsh words from a man who saw his sister-in-law shot to death.
All you people that think that these drugs are bad, well, the hell with you guys. You guys need to look at the big picture.
And as we said, it took the inmate about 2 hours to die. So long, in fact, that his attorneys had time to leave the execution chamber, race back to their offices, and file emergency documents with the court asking the state of Arizona to stop the execution. The court didn't rule in time, but the judge who received the request ordered the state to preserve the body and immediately draw blood from the corpse. And as you can imagine, so much more to come on this. Kevin?
I know it. All right. A lot of emotion there. Thank you. Elsewhere, in this day of identity theft, it's enough to make you shiver. The thought of your personal information being tossed right into a dumpster where anyone can get their hands on it. Well, it just happened in Payne County, and an elected official could be to blame. News Channel 4's Paige Hill is following this one, and she's joining us live. And Paige, we're talking about everything from addresses to Social Security numbers.
You're right, and you would think it would be standard for a government agency to shred any of those documents they want to get rid of, but allegedly not in the Payne County Sheriff or Treasurer's Office.
Files upon files, documents upon documents, tossed away like trash.
It just shows a blatant disregard for the citizens of Payne County.
This was the dumpster outside of the Payne County Administration Building Tuesday. It's almost overflowing with tax assignments, deeds, and Social Security numbers. County Assessor James Cowan says they sat in the open for hours, ready for the taking, putting residents in the way of identity theft.
I just think it was the easy way out. Just take them out, throw them in a dumpster, and be done with them.
Treasurer Bonita Stadler is just across the hall, and she disagrees.
I understand some pretty highly sensitive documents were tossed.
Oh, I don't know how highly sensitive I'd call them, since you can get Social Security numbers by going to the internet. Okay. You can also get it by looking at documents that are filed in different places. But we're sorry that it happened, of course. So it was just an oversight.
She says they don't usually handle sensitive information like Social Security numbers, so they almost never shred when getting rid of documents. Cowan thinks that has to change. He says residents are supposed to trust the people in this building.
In my office, we go above and beyond trying to protect that information.
He thinks her actions reflect poorly on him and other elected officials.
We're kind of in a partnership. And when you have one partner that's not taking care of business, then it makes the other ones look bad. Hopefully, the documents will get buried in the landfill and never be seen again.
Now, Stadler does retire within the next year. Cowan hopes the next treasurer will rethink their shredding policy.
Now, first weather from the Forewarned Storm Team.
With our heat alert in effect for today, IMSA had at least 8 heat-related calls, and the temperature was really making a run at 100 degrees earlier. And then we had cloud cover come in, the same cloud cover that we have outside right now. The sun set pretty cloudy this evening, and we had a cool gust of wind come in about 5, 6 o'clock, and it has lowered these temperatures. They're really pretty pleasant, at least for this time of year. We're in the low 70s to lower 80s across the metro. Chickasha still 84, but only 73 currently in Chandler. Look at this complex of storms that came roaring out of Kansas at about noon, came straight southbound through eastern Oklahoma, some damaging winds, and then a few storms developed to our south and our west from Oklahoma City once that gust front and cold front came through late this afternoon. A couple of lingering storms near Ardmore right now, and weakening sprinkles of rain in far southwest Oklahoma. But Kevin and Linda, big news. The Oklahoma heat is going to come roaring back. How hot it will get, that forecast coming up.
Let me take you now to Grady County, where District Attorney's Office is under fire for refusing to prosecute a man who's been repeatedly arrested for a sex crime. Last week, a postal worker claimed to see a man fondling himself outside his home near Tuttle. At the time, Grady County Sheriff said deputies arrested 39-year-old Eric Eitel. But just 4 days after the arrest for indecent exposure, the DA declined to pursue the case, and the suspect was released. Investigators reportedly told the postal worker that Eitel suffers from mental issues and has been arrested a half-dozen times for similar crimes. But the cases against him have never been prosecuted.
I don't think the answer is just because they have a mental issue to just release them back into the street. That's not doing anybody any good. It would be nice if the DA took a more serious approach to find the guy help.
Eitel has never been convicted of a crime. His most recent criminal charge for lewd acts in 2006 was also dismissed. Our repeated calls to the DA's office were not returned.
We have a quick update now on a horrific case of animal abuse. Earlier today, the man accused of abusing the animals turned himself over to authorities. First brought you the story last week. 2 dogs were found starving to death inside an apartment in Midwest City. One of those dogs has since died. The reported owner of the dogs, this man, Corey Harrison, surrendered earlier this morning. He faces felony charges in this case.
And on a related subject, tonight we know more about the dozen chickens that were seized by animal welfare officials yesterday. The seizure happened near Choctaw, and tonight lawmen confirm those animals are part of an illegal cockfighting operation. A tip led officials to the property where 17 roosters and hens were being held. Metal spurs along with steroids, mirrors, and scales near a fighting ring were also located. Now the search is on for the crooks who brought the gamecocks there to fight to the death.
Just sitting here and evaluating them, they're not going to be safe for the public, so unfortunately they're going to have to be euthanized. Their life was meant to be short because of what they were forced to do. It's sad.
Lion says there's a chance the chickens could be adopted if the situation was right. But animal control authorities don't want the roosters hurting other animals or children.
And we have new information tonight on a story we've been following for several weeks. In fact, it was the focus of a rant. It involves Christian Minard. She is a lesbian who was recently kicked out of Southwestern Christian University after she married her partner. The school said that she had violated its, quote, lifestyle covenant. Well, tonight we can tell you she has found a different college. She's enrolled in fall classes at UCO in Edmond.
Next in weather.
Well, most of the activity we had earlier today, rain-wise, is dissipated. Still a couple of showers in southern Oklahoma. If you want to try to avoid the extreme heat, I've got one day over the next 4 days that you might have a little bit of hope to do that. That forecast next.
Plus, we're about to honor a young man who beat the odds. He nearly died in a horrible crash, but then devoted himself to helping others. And tonight, we're about to give him a big surprise.
Are you ready to pay it forward?
I'm ready to pay it forward.
Let's do this thing. Come on!
Up next, what he says about this unexpected award.